Yeah.
Merch forthcoming.
Hey, we're gonna get tired of it. One day you're gonna be like, Christine, shut up.
Say y'all one more time.
Okay.
I have all my Southern ancestors from the dead come back and haunt you.
One day you're just gonna wake up and be like, I'm actually offended about this.
No, I think it's great.
You are hurting me.
I get excited every time. Yeah, I'm excited about today. We're going to talk about, we've talked a lot about how to create or how to identify and solve toxic culture.
Mhm.
We talk about kind of the antithesis of that today, or the other side of the coin, which is how to create a culture where your high performers thrive.
Yep.
So there may or may not be people that are not an ideal fit or creating toxic environments in our teams, but that they also get an outsized amount of our attention. So we want to focus on how to actually create a culture where those people that are invested and are the right fit and are thriving in our culture get a chance to do that. So I know you have a question.
I do.
Locked and loaded. So let's
excited about my question.
let's get to it.
How do you show appreciation?
With an outpouring of emotion. We talked about this.
Taylor usually sheds a lot of tears on our team.
Sure. No, I'm first to tears. No, it's a good question. We've talked about this a lot. I think, between like the two of us. And one of the ways that let me back up. Let me state I am not. It's not. I don't want to say it's not a strength of mine. I'm not great at like verbalizing it. Like I'm probably.
You're not a words of affirmation.
Yeah, I'm not a cheerleader. I've said that to people, like even like as a coach when I was working like in the and like working with athletes. I was like, if you need like the person who's gonna like rah you and tell you you're doing a great job, that's not me. Now what I will do is like always show up and be in your corner. I'm gonna be equally or even oftentimes more invested in your goals and that individual reaching their full potential than they are.
Yeah.
So to your question, like one of the ways that I show that is through like time and support. Like I will show up for you indefinitely with a very high degree of enthusiasm for as long as you need it. Now I expect something in return, right? Like I'm not going to show up for someone who's not a good fit or is clearly like flatlining or not. But I want to be in people's corner, and I will go to bat for you, and I'll go to battle for you. But it's not going to be like in a cheerleader way. Like I'm not going to be the person. Like I saw this meme, and actually like somebody on our team posted it. Was like when you like, let me think about it. It was like when you send your boss a great message, and you're really proud of the work, and they just give you the thumbs up emoji, right? Like, but and the point was like what the person.
You got thumbs
yeah,
up.
nice. I didn't know it did that.
I didn't either.
When you want a response,
Yeah.
and you might not get the like excited response that you thought. Like that's definitely me. Like I'm a thumbs up. Like I'm just not going to give you more words, or probably not going to give you the words that you want. But I will show up, and I'll show up every single time. And I'll always do what I say I'm going to do, and I'll always be there to support. So yeah, but I think communicating that is also very important. Yeah. Like you and I have made a point to like the people that need more like coaching and need more of that kind of like external validation, I guess, or external like
cheerleading.
Yeah.
Those people who need a cheerleader.
Great. Like that's you. Yeah. Okay. Let's go.
I was a cheerleader and I take it very seriously.
Yeah. No. And so I think recognizing that, like we've been like, hey, like you should probably have this conversation. Like they're not really going to get it from me, and that's okay. Like I'm okay with that. That's a strength of yours. There's some strengths that I have. So I think that just like recognizing how you do that, and then being willing and able to recognize what other people need,
Yeah.
so that you can give them that. Doesn't mean that I have to be someone that I'm not. Doesn't mean also that I don't try. All right. Like I can recognize too, like people like, I feel like this is an instance they like want some more words,
Yeah.
and be like, hey, like really appreciate it. Like, thanks so much. I know this is super hard or like the timeline was tight or whatever. So like, I do try to recognize that and I try to be better at it. It's not a strength of mine. It's never going to be something I'm great at, but
I think there's a difference though, to your point. There's a difference between working on those things and then just like also leaning into your strengths and showing up and showing appreciation from a genuine place. And that typically like comes across better. Like some people do need a cheerleader, and that's why we work so well together. But when and we need that. I think that's a core point for this conversation. If you're trying to really create a culture where your high performers thrive, or your C players are just like really crafted and like encouraged into being A players, I think these things are important, but being genuine is like the foundation of everything else. If you want to be a good leader, be a genuine leader.
mhm.
Be like real. The word authentic, kind of like, I'm like, that's overused, but be real.
Mhm.
Be real. And like if you we should do that. We should make a reel, like make a meme of Taylor coming in like rah rah.
Yeah.
Like I
People would lose their mind.
Becca, and she said she impersonated a Valley girl yesterday. She impersonated me. She was just trying to be nice.
Yeah.
But you should do that. I really love it.
Throw everybody off.
Yeah, you gotta wear like a little shirt though. Like, can we get you in a crop top?
Anything for the cause.
I love it. So yeah, I think that's great. And I appreciate you being vulnerable about
Yeah.
what it looks like for you to be appreciative. So we're talking today about creating a culture where high performers thrive. And so part of this is I want to like get into the meat of this. Part of this is being very intentional with your culture. And so many people who are listening are probably like, I don't have a culture. I don't, but I want high performers. I want people to thrive. And so I think that this is not something that just happens.
Mhm.
This is something that we have to be intentional about. And I don't care how long you've been in leadership, you have to continue to. This is not something that's like one and done. This is not I posted the mission statement on the
Right.
wall. They're gonna thrive.
Mhm.
So let's get into the meat of this. Uh what like what are the things that leaders miss, and let's just start by going, here's quickly like here's what we miss, and then let's jump into the meat of here's how we actually remedy that.
Yeah, I want to give you a couple, like a bit of a reality check, to set the stage. Um, and I think it's always good to have like supporting statistics because not that, it's easy to get bogged down in the data. And again, like you were saying, like being real is what's most important. But I also think we have a tendency to think that these things don't move the needle or that it doesn't matter if I am or am not real, then what's the difference? Couple of statistics, 79% of employees who quit say it's due to a lack of appreciation.
We've seen that. We've seen that in so many
Yeah,
cultures.
totally.
Really good people who
Mhm.
care just don't feel appreciated.
Yeah. You just can't. I've likened it to, and this is a strong analogy, but I've likened it to like showing up and getting punched in the face every day. Like you can only take that for so long, right? Like that's a really hard thing to wake up and walk into every day. Is a lack of appreciation and knowing that it's not going to come.
Well, and people do things for three reasons: time, money, and significance.
Mhm.
And if they don't feel significant, that's actually like the higher level of those three. It's like time and money are still a little bit like reactive. Significance is where our high achievers are actually going to show up for that. And so being good at appreciating people and making sure that they feel significant in the culture to you and their work isn't overlooked, I think that's really important. Giving credit where credit is due is one of those that really can make people feel appreciated.
Mhm. Yeah, high performers who feel undervalued are 2 times more likely to leave than low performers. That's crazy. That's Harvard Business Review. So this is like real deal statistics easier.
We talked about that last podcast,
Yeah.
why that happened. So if you missed that one, go back and listen.
Yep.
We break that down.
Correct. And then the number one driver for employee engagement is feeling like their work matters. I've said this again. We said on the last podcast, business's responsibility. If you're a leader or anyone who is driving the culture of your business or a business, the number one responsibility of a business is to create an environment where people thrive, period. If you don't do that, the work doesn't matter, nothing else like this. So the number one driver of employee engagement, the thing that you want the most as a leader, is people feeling like their work matters. And if your best people don't feel seen, they're going to quietly quit, which we've also talked about a lot. We all know this is something that's happening, or they're going to actually quit, and that's a loss that your business can't afford. The statistics are there about how much money, time, and energy is required to replace people. It's such a detriment when we lose anyone, but certainly when we lose, or more importantly, and specifically to this conversation, when we lose our high performers, that's a hit. And honestly, we might just never get that back.
Yeah.
There's only so many A players that we're going to have access to.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. And I think this conversation actually gives us access to creating A players.
Totally. Yep.
And so if we do this well, we're going to create A players. Like, I would like to say that we have the opportunity and like we're on a mission to create cultures where the hiring shortage doesn't exist and A players are only people. We look at everyone as an A player, whether they're the CFO or the cleaner. If those people are A players and we do this well, we can create a culture of A players. And that doesn't mean there's not layers and everyone has to be in the CFO seat. That means we can have all of our people can be the best people because we're helping them actually be engaged. And so let's talk a little bit about why do people stay engaged? And we have like 4 really clear points here. So the first one is a clear sense of purpose. This is my favorite.
Start with your why.
I love this one. This is
where you get to be a cheerleader.
I know. I love it so much, you guys. Okay. So if you listen to our last podcast, I didn't always do this well, and that's why I love this one. I was a raging bitch for the most part of my early 20s.
Oh, we both broke that down in the last podcast.
Yeah. So I love this because it has been a game changer, not just for me, but for all of our team. And when we do this well, when we get people clear on their why, Simon Sinek is definitely onto something with this. So if you don't know what that is, and we have a killer, the best exercise to go through to get your why. I'm going to say that it's way better than Simon Sinek stuff. I'm going to be that cocky about it because it literally works every time. So good. It gets people clear, but people do not show up for a paycheck. They may start for a paycheck. They don't continue to show up for a paycheck. So if we don't get them clear on their purpose and their why and how it equates to the bigger business, it just doesn't matter because that significance, the why they show up when shit gets hard, just is not there. And so this is something that is literally basically free. You do not have to spend a lot of time and money on this, and it will change the freaking game. And people, if you reinforce this, it's not something that just happens. When we reinforce this, it changes everything. And it has to be integrated into your culture. And this does not have to take a lot of time. So that is one of my favorites. The second is creating a culture of trust and ownership. We talk a ton about this. Autonomy is a game changer. Autonomy without ownership will crash everything.
Yeah. Well, that's where, from a leadership perspective, we miss the mark so often. We give people autonomy without clear direction and clear ownership, and a clear guideline of what it looks like to actually take ownership over that role. Right? We hear this all the time. It's like, no, they can go run, go for it, go nuts, whatever. Like that, in what direction?
Autonomy is not lack of direction.
Yeah. It doesn't absolve us of leadership.
Yeah.
Right. And that really is like a big frustration soapbox piece for me. And I know it's hard, like I get it, but like that we have really missed the mark as leaders on taking this autonomy piece and running with it, and it's screwing people over, and it's screwing us over as leaders. It doesn't absolve you of responsibility.
Yeah.
By all means, put the right people in the right seat on the bus and let them run with it, but they need clear direction, and they need to know what it looks like to take ownership over that role. That's what high performers do. That's what they want to do. So we're not talking about some big stretch or reach for these people, but they have to know. There has to be guidelines. You have to be clear on what that ownership looks like. The next piece is they want collaboration and creative space. So the best teams prioritize connection and idea sharing. This is another one that is huge. Right? Like people don't want to work in silos.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this before, and I'm sure people that are listening have heard this, like the proximity piece, right? Like sitting 20 feet in proximity to a high performer increases that individual's performance. You don't even have to work with that person. You literally just have to be in the same room, could be a pretty large room, and you're still getting a boost. So there's the collaborative aspect in terms of other high performers want to learn from other high performers. They want to be around that energy. They don't want to be the smartest person in the room, right? People that are actively engaged and growing and looking for growth recognize that they can't get that alone. Or they need to recognize that. So it's our responsibility as leaders to create that environment and create those collaborative opportunities. That's what these individuals are looking for. They don't want to be in a silo. We need to create those spaces, and we need to create an environment where an open exchange of ideas is accepted and is, I would say, required. And being okay with what that means, because what that means is that the best idea rises to the top, and that everybody's okay with that. What we're after is the best solution, not the loudest voice.
Yeah, or the top the top of the organization.
Right. CEO
right?
is the one that always gets to say, like, no, like I love organizations that were like the C-suite founder, whatever, like their ideas like don't make it through as much.
Yeah.
Like I love that.
I love being that too. Like when we launched the Service Hub network,
Mhm.
Becca's ideas were like so much better than
we
ours.
literally
It was
didn't
like,
even name it because our ideas
like
sucked.
it just she like put it on Slack and I was like, she's a genius. She's a freaking genius.
Yeah.
And our ideas were like,
nope, our ideas were bad. I was just busy and I was like, yeah, that's fine. And then she was like, no, we can make this way better. And I was like, yep, that's a better idea. We should do
yeah, no, that's so exciting. And when we think about this one too, that's why people love workout classes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you get to be energized by other people pushing it hard. We should think about our organizations the same. Mm-hmm. That happens when we create the environment. And if you're remote, it's really challenging to do. So you might need some supports on that because it can be really challenging to create a collaborative and creative environment when you're all on Zoom and you literally only communicate through Slack. So think about that.
Yeah. Yeah, the last one to just kind of piggyback off of that, I think one of the things that comes with collaboration is just that energy and recognition. Yeah. People don't burn out from hard work. I think that's a misnomer, is that we're working people too hard. And certainly there's instances of that. People, high performers want to work hard. They don't want to work hard without recognition. And so there is that energy and recognition piece that need to go hand in hand. Yeah. We can expect a lot out of people, and I know for a fact that people want and are willing to give that, but they're not going to do that in the face of no recognition. And
acknowledging big and small wins, I think, is a big one here. And we've talked a lot about like celebrating the wins and the big and small parts, and that can get really overlooked. So making sure that you're intentional with that, I think, is really, really important. And making sure that recognition is generic, genuine,
not generic,
genuine, generic.
Make sure your recognition is super not individualized.
Like, make it really like the turkeys.
Hello, person. Hello, employee number 2. Your work is very valuable. We at company really appreciate you. Okay.
No, but like the turkey, maybe if you like the turkeys at Thanksgiving, please let me know. I'd really like, is there anyone who gets excited about the turkey?
We talked about this. The meat is not the star. I don't know. People like turkey, but no, it's crap.
No, like it's so, I don't know. It just seems like such a slap in the face. Maybe I'm totally wrong, but like I would be, I don't know. It just seems like so off. So make sure that it's not,
Don't be a generic turkey.
it's not generic. It is genuine.
Yep.
And
Be a
it
genuine turkey,
is
folks.
and like understand love languages. I remember like when we first started Impact Initiative, you and I think had an entire conversation at a sushi place about our love languages. And I think that that is really, really important. And, you know, we can all sit back and be like, that's really goopy. No, it like helps us understand how people receive appreciation and feel appreciated. Enneagram is another great tool we use for
Mhm.
that. If you don't understand their motivators, you don't understand what they want.
Mhm.
And you just don't know what people want unless you ask. So I think that's a big one.
Totally. All right. So how can we energize and retain our best people? Let's get into some tactical stuff to round it out. Um, One, making appreciation a habit. So we've talked a lot about like people won't do things in the face of no appreciation. That can look a lot of different ways. I want to give some specifics. So weekly shout outs and team meetings. These are light lifts. It's just an integration piece into the culture. Consistency is what matters. So just making sure that it's a consistent piece, a part of what you're doing. Personalized notes, right? So just little small things again, not generic. Don't be the turkey. And then public and private praise. And you know these sound generic, and to the extent that, or in the sense that like it's not like a crazy new inventive thing, but again it really is as simple and easy as that. There's lots of ways to do that, but there's a few. Just make it known, like again, be real. Hey, I really appreciate that, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was massive. I didn't have like one of my favorite that we just talked about this, like I would have never thought of that.
Yeah.
Like I like to say that because one of my favorite things is like genuinely when I would never have thought of that and somebody else did. I'm like, oh, great. All I care about is the best result. It doesn't have to be mine. I would actually prefer it not to be mine because it's hard to come up with good ideas. So if I can like limit my time, to do that. Um,
Well, and if they're a line item, then they're going to
right,
feel generic
right.
and they're not going to feel genuine. So like actually showing up. And one of the worst things that we can do in this is fake appreciation. Tell someone they did a good job when they really didn't. So make sure it's real.
Hmm.
Like you actually appreciate them for it.
Yep. Um, Another tactical way, create opportunities for ownership.
Yes.
So give people problems to solve, not just a task to complete. This is a very key distinction here. I think so many people operate on task orientation. Um, Give people won't buy in. People want to know that they're working on things that are priorities, not just a checklist of tasks.
Yeah.
And creating an environment of trust where you trust that person to do that, you give them a problem to solve, and then you let them take that to fruition where they know that that's actually a priority, and then they can see that moved the needle in a meaningful way, versus just things that are lost and
Well,
you know.
giving them insight, another way to say this is give them insight into the bigger picture. It's really important.
Hmm.
And then the next one is foster meaningful connection and collaboration. Like that one again, like we've pushed on this a lot, but creating the space for it. If you're always on Zoom, you're gonna have to get creative in making sure that you know how to do this. And um, we've talked a lot about this, like encouraging walk and talks
Hmm.
versus just sitting on Zoom. Like I think a lot of times staring at someone's face is what we've told ourselves is connection.
Hmm.
It's not actually connection. Actually, Zoom has been very disruptive for our brain and real connection. And so giving people the space to get out of their their home office or wherever they're at and actually get moving. We've had that happen a lot. Like we've had people jump on our team calls on their cycle bikes,
Sure.
and I love it.
Yeah.
I think, and you don't have to be on screen. Like we trust you. You're an adult. We trust that you're doing your work. And so sometimes it's needed, but when it's not needed, we're here to collaborate.
Hmm.
We're here to work on a project and get creative. You don't need to be on Zoom. My forehead is not going to inspire you. I know it's contoured very nicely.
Especially mine. I mean, these things, as some of our clients like to call us.
Poor Taylor, he's roast. Yeah, but I think that's a big one. And then prioritizing people over processes. This, oof, we should just do a whole podcast on this one because if you prioritize processes, I don't have a button for that mentality. I'm not going to show up for you. It's not going to inspire people. So I think this this is something that I could talk about for days, but that one is making sure that your culture happens conversationally and with true connection and not just through systems. Which Slack, we love it. It's great.
Yeah.
Those systems are great. But if there's not real connection, there's not going to be real collaboration. And most of the time, people do good work and their best work and their most creative work while they're in motion and while they're with in true connection. So making sure you prioritize that. So the key mindset shift, I think this one's big. Like I think we have to rethink this one.
Great.
It's hard to get out of the systems and it's hard to actually shift that. So what like for you, what's been the biggest mindset shift here?
I think
You think too?
I know. It's hard to I actually tried to not start it with that and I still did it because I don't know maybe you had said it and it seeped into my subconscious. The right people thrive in the right environment. The mindset shift is that your culture, if your culture doesn't fuel creativity, trust, ownership, then you're going to lose your best players. So everything that we talked about today, if your culture isn't creating or is not an environment that is actively producing those things, so appreciation, collaboration, everything that we touched on today, we just know for a fact that the best people are not going to stick around. Those are the things they need to thrive. Those are the things they look for. And if they don't find it with you, they'll find it somewhere else. And so the mindset shift here is that in order to really get the most out of our A players, and to your point, create those A players, it starts with creating the right place first, the right environment.
Yeah.
And again, to your point, there are people in our organizations that might be C players now, but it can be A players when the environment is right, and these pieces exist. It's amazing how people show up when the mechanisms that are required for people to thrive are available to them.
Yeah.
And so I think we lead with lots of other things, or we try to create change in lots of other parts of our businesses to create the outcome that we want, i.e. A players and what they produce. We need to start with the environment. We need to start with the culture that creates that.
And when your A players are being appreciated as A players, your C players are going to want to be A players. So like from our last podcast to this one, if you're actually giving the correct energy to your A players and you're not spending all your time on the C players and just like wasting a bunch of time on the toxic challenges in your company and you're addressing those, you get to focus on your A players and appreciation versus rescuing, and it's going to change the freaking game. And so we have a leadership challenge for you. I want to challenge you to look at your team and ask yourself, are your high performers seen, valued, and challenged? Are all of those, or to my point earlier, you can create, are all of your is all of your team seen, valued, and challenged authentically in a real way? And if you can answer yes, great. If not, take these points that we've outlined and figure out what the heck's missing, because it's going to change the game and it's going to get you more productivity. I can't talk. Productivity, and it's gonna grow the bottom line. And then what's one thing this week you can do to energize your workplace? How can you implement even one of these points? What can you do to create more energy in the workplace? And some people don't like a cheerleader. I'm gonna say it.
Some people don't like you.
No, some people don't. I actually don't like me. Like
some people need me.
Yes. No, it's so true.
Right.
That's why you need diversity and people showing up in their gifts. Like, it's just not everyone. I actually don't like me. When I'm in a workout and I get a cheerleader coach, I'm like, get the heck out of my face. I'm going to punch you. I know. It's so weird. And so the final piece of this is businesses that are thriving aren't the ones that have the best products, they're the ones who have the best people and the people who are thriving and the most connected and the most engaged. And so if you can think about your business not as being the best, but actually supporting the best people to really thrive, I think we're gonna change the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so one of the things that keeps that energy from missing in our companies is when we don't have access to that energy ourselves as leaders. And so that's one of the reasons that we created the Service Hub, which is our in-person networking event that we do here in Denver once a month. The next one is going to be on March 27th. It is the fourth Thursday of every month. Again, next one's March 27th. We're going to be talking a lot about this culture piece, how to create environments where people thrive. What is that why, like we talked about? So it is part open networking where we really want to create an environment where people can build real connection and get the support they need to grow their business. Also, walking away with very tactical solutions. So we cover a new topic each month where you and I do some facilitation and then ask very targeted questions. Work on that as a group. So part networking, part kind of mastermind. Again, that's March 27th. That's the Service Hub. It's at Tradecraft in Denver, Colorado. So if you're in the area or passing through, we would highly encourage you to stop by. It is incredible. It's totally free. So that's a good way to get that energy for yourself so that you can put that into your business. And then last but not least, as always, impactinitiative.network. You can reach us there. Learn more. If we can be a support mechanism, reach out. We'd love to hear from you. And until then, see you next time on Impact Minded.